I am a father, a husband, a nurse, an aspiring athlete. I work hard to provide for my family, and I try to give the best for my family. But who am I? Welcome to today's episode. This is Simon from Yellow Cat Performance. This episode is a bit of a different episode. It's a bit of an episode about self-discovery. Essentially, the whole grasps of this podcast is all about self-discovery, improvement, helping people find themselves. But, I've also got to be honest with myself, and I want to be honest in this podcast. And right now I'm going through a stage in my life where I kind of don't know who I am. I'm back feeling lost again. So I thought now would be a good time to talk about it. Talk about mental health, talking about anxiety, talking about fatherhood. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, I am a father, I am a husband, and I'm a full-time nurse. But I've got all these titles, and I just feel lost. And I know I'm not the only one that feels like this. There's probably hundreds, thousands, millions of yous out there that probably feel the same. So let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. Over these last 18 months, I've been on a real health kick and buzz, and a journey of self-discovery. But right now, I don't know who I am, and over these last 2 months, I've gone in and out of pretty dark times. And upon reflection of this, I don't know who I am now, and I don't know who I... Sort of on reflection, I don't think I ever knew who I really was. Honestly, don't think I've ever been this lost in my life, this stressed or this anxious about pretty much everything, pretty much. On the flip side, this is the fittest I've ever been, the healthiest I've ever been, and I'm making positive changes in my physical appearance, my physical life. But the mental side is definitely flailing. And a sort of something that I guess has also ticked my mind lately is that everyone always talks about your physical health, going to the gym, running, and not only the physical benefits you get out of those, but the mental benefits. Now, I don't know if I'm just broken. I don't know if, I'm a little bit different to everyone else, but if anything, my mental health has been declining over these last 18 months instead of improving. So I'm going to sort of dive into that a little bit. Dive into a little bit about that. Dive into a little bit about what I've gone through, the stresses, and sort of where I'm sort of at in this stage of my life. Back in December, I had what I've been branding myself as a quarter-life crisis. And FYI, I am on antidepressants. I've been on them for maybe about 10 months now. I've slowly been going up on the dosages over these last 10 months, trying to find a good dose that's been right for me. And then back in December, it was a very mentally draining, tough time for me at work. Kind of had couple of not so great outcomes. A patient and a family that I had sort of grown a little bit close to, built a rapport with, and so that death definitely did take a mental toll on me. But at the same time, literally this exact same week, I think I was on 4 string of day shifts, so 12-hour days. Literally don't have time to do anything, let alone try and go to the shops to purchase things. Now, on my first day of this string of 4, I had ingested my last antidepressant that I had. So over the next 3 days, I physically did not have the time or the capacity to go to a doctor, to get a script, to go to the pharmacy to purchase my script. So I did go nearly 4 or 5 days without my antidepressants. And if you are on antidepressants yourself, you will just know what type of effect you have if you skip your meds for 1 or 2 days. I skipped it for 4 or 5 simply because I just wasn't able to actually get around to purchasing my script pretty much. So straight after this week, I went completely downhill mental health wise, massive decline, just questioning everything in life. Questioning whether I was questioning everything. I was questioning like whether I was in the right job, whether God wanted me to do something else, questioning whether I'm a good father. It was definitely a big week. Definitely had a lot of fights at home. I'm not ashamed. I'm not proud of it. I definitely am ashamed of how I was that week. But that was part of the effects of not taking my medications. But it was also an effect of the situation I was in. I was lost. I was absolutely lost. And at the time, even on reflection now, and then even now as this, so that happened in December. Over the next couple of months, went back on my meds. I'm still on my meds now. But same sort of thing happened again. Ran out of meds about a week or 2 ago. Didn't have a script. La-di-da-di-da. Same sort of thing. Not as bad of a quarter life crisis as I had in December. But I've definitely been going through this definite period of questioning who I am and sort of what my future holds. Whilst I was studying to become a nurse, you ask my wife, you ask my family, you ask anyone I know, I'm a very ambitious, motivated person. We went on a podcast the other week about sort of never giving up, and I sort of dove into a little bit about my history, my motivation, what sort of drives me. And so throughout university, I had, as I was studying nursing, I always had this goal, this ambition, this desire that I eventually, probably sooner rather than later, wanted to ditch the bedside nursing role and go into more of a management role within a unit, within the hospital, I definitely wanted to have a leadership role. I believe in myself that I have good leadership qualities, and I wanted to hone into that and sort of explore that part of my life a little bit further. Back in my past, while I was studying at university, I was a service supervisor at Woolworths, and I felt that I definitely did excel in that role, in that sort of leadership position. So, finished uni, got my new grad, started working in the hospital. 12 months later, I went and done my graduate certificate in nursing, focusing in leadership and management. And I thoroughly loved the course, loved what I learned. Definitely what I learned definitely showed me that I do have the capabilities to become a leader within the healthcare field. Actually really excelled in that. I was actually very surprised. I pretty much only got distinctions and high distinctions, which was, I only got one distinction in my whole nursing degree. No, I don't even think I got a distinction. I think I only got credits, and that was only like minimum amount of credits. So being a distinction / high distinction in this leadership course definitely showed me that I am sort of going on the right path. But I sort of done that course as I was in my first year working in the pediatric ICU. And pediatric ICU, yes, it's got stepping stones to dive into leadership roles, but they're big steps you have to take. So it's not something you can dive into a couple of years out of uni. You have to go through all the learning, all the courses, sort of learn everything, sort of be a very capable and competent nurse within the pediatric ICU before sort of diving into these leadership positions. Now, right now I've been in the ICU starting my 3rd year. So I'm still quite a junior nurse within the pediatric ICU system. So I still have a lot to learn, and talking about any leadership capabilities, I'm definitely still a couple of years off that. So that definitely did put a halt and sort of a stop sign in me progressing leadership roles as a nurse. And so then for about a year and a half, I was just doing the same thing every day, going to work every day, doing the same thing over and over again. And I felt like I wasn't able to make the leadership impact that I sort of want to have within my nursing career. And so it definitely made me think, reflect on whether I actually do want to pursue this leadership and management pathway. But I was only reflecting about this over the last 12, 16 months. Until my quarter life crisis, when I was just questioning everything, questioning whether I still want to be a nurse, whether I actually want to pursue this leadership pathway, which just seems so far out of reach, so far out of grasp. And I just feel like I've wasted a bit of time doing this course that I was so passionate about 24 months ago. Fast forward to today and I'm a total different man. I'm a total different mess. And yes, I've definitely been doing a lot of questioning, a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting. Now, upon reflecting, I initially thought that I was unhappy. Right now, I still don't. Right now, I still don't 100% know if I'm unhappy or not. But I was listening to the Nick Bare podcast on the weekend. His latest podcast that he just popped out. He was interviewing Dan Churchill. And because Dan Churchill was like a gourmet famous chef. And then he sort of dropped all of that. Now he's an athlete, sort of using his nutritional knowledge to help other athletes and help people live a healthier lifestyle. And so he definitely went through, from listening to that podcast, a very similar mindset that I'm going through right now. And Nick Bare put out a very interesting point that made me think, and I'm still reflecting on that, still trying to figure out where I sit. But he basically was asking Dan Churchill if Dan was, in that point in time, whether he was actually unhappy or whether he was just unsatisfied. And so I'm still trying to dive into this unhappy versus unsatisfied mojo. It definitely does make sense, and I guess a lot of people could probably just be unsatisfied in their work, in their job, in their home life, and that it's mimicking being unhappy, and so you end up, going down the unhappy route. But upon reflecting, I think right now in my situation, I think I am unhappy. But I think the unhappy stems from unsatisfaction. Because upon reflecting, looking at the bigger picture, which is also a lot of what I haven't been doing in the moment. In the moment, I become stressed, I become angry, I become anxious, and I become unhappy. But that's when I've got tunnel vision, focusing on little bits here and there. In my job, I do work a lot of weekends. And that makes me unhappy. I don't want to be working every single weekend of every single year. Now, in my family situation, I do that so that I can spend more time with my wife and kids. Now, tunnel vision, what's making me unhappy is that I'm working all of these weekends. I'm missing out a lot of family, like extended family events. I'm missing out on playing football, going to the football, spending quality weekends that I used to have as a child growing up. I feel that I'm not able to give any or much of that to my family because we work weekends. But see, that's my tunnel vision. Looking at it from a bigger perspective, I am unsatisfied because I have to work these weekends. But on the flip side, by me working these weekends, I actually get more time during the week with my family. I am able to see my kids a lot more, able to spend more quality time with my wife, able to do things that you would essentially do on a weekend just during the week. Only big thing that I can't do is football, and that's what I'm trying to work through right now. But so I'm definitely looking at that greater picture from just that perspective. I think I am unsatisfied. Looking at it from another perspective, I've got a great job. I've got great job security. I get a decent wage. I get all these benefits. I work within the pediatric ICU. Working in that environment, we have so many nurses, so many people. So when it comes to rostering, it can be a little bit of a logistical nightmare, a little bit of a logistical mess. But in saying that, because we have so much staff, every roster, we get to request a roster. And I pretty much get 95% of what I request. And so looking at the bigger picture, in my workplace right now, where I am unsatisfied, looking at the bigger picture, so right now I'm in my job and I believe I'm unhappy. But looking at the scheme of things, this is what makes me think I'm sort of in the unsatisfied category. Because if I was to move workplaces, move into a different role, I've also moved to a different ward, my job security is still there, but my pre-planning won't be as efficient. There's less nurses on the wards. There's less give and take. So a lot of the time you just get rostered to fill a roster and you don't end up getting what you request on the wards. So looking at the grander scheme of things, I've got it good in my workplace, but I still whinge. I'm still complaining. I think I'm unsatisfied. Unsatisfied with what? I don't know. That is what I'm still trying to figure out for myself, still trying to find for myself. I don't feel like I am living a life that I want to be living. I feel that in my situation as it is right now, because then on the flip side, I work 12 hours a day. Essentially, it is 3 to 4 days a week. Better. I have more days off in the week than the 9-to-5ers. Thing that I don't like is that if I've got 3 days on, that is 3 days on where I don't get to see my family. And so with that, I don't feel like I am living. I feel that it's putting a burden, putting a speed bump in my road of living the life that I want to be living. Right now, from my quarter life crisis, from reflection and deep diving into myself, I don't feel like I am living a life that I want to be living. I just feel that it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I mean, we have young kids. It is probably just a part of life. But it definitely does play on my mental health. I feel I wake up every morning. So with days that I'm not working, I feel like I wake up every morning, go to the gym, do my workouts, come home, wake up the kids, spend time with the kids for a bit. They have a nap. They have a nap. Wake them up from their nap. They're awake for a little bit longer. Bedtime. And I just feel that it's a constant, repeating, monotonous cycle. And that's definitely leading towards my unhappiness, my unsatisfaction. I am not currently living a life that I'm proud of or a life that I want to be living. I just feel that there's so much more in life that I am not achieving, and I don't want to put blame on anything, but I'm trying to work through this situation. I also do believe I need a change. I've been living in this same area pretty much since birth. You know, I see the same roads every day. With running, I'm running at the moment, but I've lost a bit of motivation from running because just running the same routes every day, just running the same thing every day. Over time, I have lost friends. I don't have that connection anymore that I used to have with, and I just feel that my circle is my circle is closing and closing and closing, and it's just all spiraling, all leading to this segment of unsatisfaction in my life. Adding to all of this mental status that I'm in right now is nursing. I felt that... One sec. As you heard in my podcast a couple of weeks ago, I went into nursing because I believe that is what God wanted me to do. I'm a Christian, so you can say what you want. I'm always going to believe there's a God out there. I'm always going to believe God wants our best interest. Nothing is ever going to take that faith away from me. And so I went into nursing not from my own accord. I went into nursing from what I believed, and I still do believe was and is a calling from God. But right now in my nursing career, like I mentioned, I am unhappy. And this unhappy unsatisfaction, in my workplace, I see the worst of the worst that this state has in terms of children. I see their worst outcomes, and I help them to get better, but sometimes they don't. And I'm the one that has to live through that. I'm the one that, scratch that. the families live through that more than what I do. But it's definitely something that I see every single day. And it's just family after family after family. Like, I wish I didn't have to work where I work. And I think God has placed me in that workplace not for my benefits, but I believe that God sent me there to make a positive impact, make a positive difference in the families that we look after. But right now, I'm burnt out. Right now, I see the worst of everything. You know, I see the worst of everything, and it definitely makes me question in the back end, seeing about how it's mentally affecting me, how it's mentally draining me, on whether God's plan was a shorter term solution or whether it was a longer term solution. I don't know, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. That is what I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to be open and honest with you guys. After my quarter life crisis in December, I obviously haven't quit because I'm still working within the pediatric ICU. But I did sign up to commence a graduate certificate in paramedicine, which is just a 1-year course to transition over from a nurse to a paramedic. I did not get accepted, only because I just applied way too late. Class was already full. Now, part of me thinks that is a sign from God that, no, you're not becoming a paramedic, or like, no, don't become a paramedic. But at the same time, I haven't necessarily gotten any better mentally in my workplace. I haven't gotten any better mentally. So whether I think God is just putting a halt and I not now try again in 12 months' time, I don't know. It's just been a lot of questions, a lot of not knowing what I want to do or even what God wants me to do. Also, adding on top of that, over the last 4 years, I've been smashing myself with work just to make ends meet. Twins were born 3/4 of the way through my first year of being a first year nurse. And twins, we were not expecting twins. Financially wise, we probably could have got by financially with the one. But having two, it just adds extra. You know, you got to get an extra baby seat, you got to get a bigger pram, got to get double of everything, double beds, double cots, double everything. And I have been smashing myself with work for the past 4 years as a nurse, past 5-6 years as everything else. And it's definitely led to burnout. And it's definitely minimized my family time. Family time that I wish I had. Now, if you're in a similar situation, think of the bigger picture, which is what I haven't always been doing, and it is something that I'm trying to get more of a hold of. But looking at the bigger picture, you know, my kids are now 2.5. And if I smash myself with work, that takes time away from me and my family. The more time away I have from them, you know, that's time that I'm never going to get back. And I know this. But my stress and anxiety just sometimes takes over. My stress and anxiety is just sometimes, in the financial scheme of things, too much. And so an unhealthy coping mechanism that I have is to just smash myself with work. If I'm at work, we get more money. It means that, you know, we can live a better week. That week we can live a better week. And it's unhealthy, but it's sort of the mindset, the hard work, the hard yakka that I've grown up with. And it's got its ups, but it's also got its downs. I miss out on a lot of family time. I miss out on a lot of things that matter. Ups is we're financially stable for a week. Tisha does work part-time, so her income is minimal. So it's definitely something that I need to work through, something I need to work out, so we can find a better system that works for everyone. But definitely family time is something you can focus on. Definitely for me, family time is the main situation of my unsatisfaction. It's one of the main reasons of my unsatisfaction. I am not home enough to spend quality time with my family. And that is a part of the living aspect that I feel that I'm missing. But it definitely is a juggling act for me and anyone that's in a similar situation. You know, some people have to work 7 days a week just to make ends meet. I have to work 7 days a week to pay back the unhealthy lifestyle we had before kids. And so that's why I work so much. And it's a give and take. And it's just something that I have to find a balance in. And it is something that I'm trying to find a balance in. Since the quarter life crisis in December, I literally stopped all of my casual work, picked up no overtime for a good 2 or 3 months. And it's only been this last fortnight where I've gone back to picking up casual shifts and heaps of overtime, and that's when I've relapsed again. It's just, that's the thing. When my brain sees the bank account and sees we need money, and I see I've got these days off from my full-time job, I'm like, cool. We need money. Let's fill every single one of those days with one of my casual jobs. And as a nurse, being in high demand, always being short-staffed, it's easy for me to overwork myself and work my ass off, you know? It's yeah, it's definitely a hole that I definitely dig myself into. But yeah, right now I am trying to reflect a lot more, trying to find myself and who I am and what my future holds. I don't know. Only God knows. And I don't know sort of what I'm going to do in my life. I don't know who I am. But that's what I'm trying to sort out through right now. Some actions I've been taking over these past couple of months since my quarter life crisis is I've started journaling. Have I seen any positive outcomes in that? I'm going to be honest and I'm going to say not yet. Also, I'm not as consistent. I'll go 3-4 days in a row where I journal and then I sort of forget it for a week. So I'm trying to journal. Apparently it's good for you mentally. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But I definitely am trying to focus on taking more time off, spending more quality time with my family. My kids are 2.5 and I have already missed so much of their upbringing, so much of their baby stage, and I don't want to have to miss any more than what I have to. I am trying to hone into my health and fitness a little bit more this year. Not like I haven't. But I've got big ambitions. I'll announce it right now. I posted on my Instagram on Thursday. We've signed up and registered for the Hume and Hovell 50k Ultra. That's, look at the grand scheme of things, it might be a bit selfish. That is a goal, ambition, aspiration just for me. It's not like my family gets anything out of it, but it's one of my ambitions. It's one of my goals, and that's what I want to focus more on this year. I want to focus on, family time, but also time to achieve my goals and my ambitions. And so if I need to set time aside to train for a 50k Ultra, I will. Obviously, I do a lot of my training while my family is asleep, so I am in sort of a boat where it doesn't affect too much of my time with them. But I definitely need to be intentional with my organizational skills to make sure that I can actually be intentional and present when I am at home with my family and with my kids. So that is something I'm definitely needing to hone into this year. And I feel with a bit more stability, a bit more organization, a bit more of me chasing my dreams and ambitions, I'm hoping will set me up to be more intentional and be more present at home with my family. I'm going to keep podcasting. Not only do I find this fun for myself, but I want to inspire you guys. I want to inspire you to live a better, happy, healthier life. You know, I'm not the best role model. Like, that's what this whole podcast today is all about my fucked up brain, about my issues, about my midlife crisis, and I definitely don't want people to live a life like this, you know? I want to focus on, living a holistic, healthy life myself, but then also preaching that to others so others can live a holistic, healthy life as well. Take from what I say in these podcasts, learn from my mistakes, and try and implement these into your life so that you can live a happier life. I'm 27, turning 28, and I had a real bad quarter-life crisis in December. And it's just all about reflection, looking back on who I am, and that's part of my quarter-life crisis. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm dibbling and dabbling in a lot of different things, but I don't feel I have an identity anymore. And it's definitely what I'm trying to work towards. Mental health is a real thing. It affects probably more people than we think or than we like to admit. As I said, I only started my medications 10 months ago. I'd probably been needing antidepressants for maybe the last 2 years. And even before that, I was just always that masculine guy that felt, I'm fine, I'll get over it, like toughen up type thing. And, sometimes you do need that dose of concrete. But when it comes to your feelings, it's always better to talk it out with someone. Get it off your chest. Just talking about it helps like tenfold in the immediate interaction. 9 times out of 10, the person you're talking with probably can't actually help. If you've got financial stresses, if you've got relationship problems, etc., if you've got family problems, and you're talking to your mate or you're talking to a counselor about it, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be able to alleviate and fix your problems. But just talking about it, getting it off your chest, helps a lot more. And just knowing that you are supported and that you have people around you is definitely something, definitely a tip, trick that people need to utilize more. Um, so focus on your mental health. Focus on living a life for you and not for others. You know, a lot of anxiety and stresses and mental health comes from the idea of needing to be a certain way for other people, needing to, fit a certain mold because that's what people think you are. It's about worrying about what people think about you. And, probably honestly, the most happiest people in life are probably the ones who don't give a flying fuck about what others think. If you want to dress up as a clown, if that makes you happy, don't let anyone stop you. We have enough stress and anxiety in life as it is before even adding the stress of trying to please others. So why are we focusing on trying to please others? Focus on ourselves. Focus on your own mental well-being. Find yourself and do what you want to do for you. Doesn't matter what other people think. If you want to play video games all day, play video games all day. If you want to work your ass off, work your ass off. But do it because that's what you want to do. Don't do it because you think you have to. You do not owe anyone anything. That even comes in the workplace. Once you clock off, you clock off. You do not owe your workplace anything else. Unless you're a business owner, then you're in a tough fucking situation. It's kind of hard to clock off. But if you're an employee, just make sure you focus on yourself. Make sure you focus on your family. It's something that I'm still trying to do. Still trying to focus on. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is who's going to remember you when you're 3 foot under. "12 months after you pass away, is your workplace actually going to remember you? Or is it your family and friends who you didn't spend enough time with because you were working so much that's going to be sad remembering you, going to your funeral, and visiting your gravesite? You got to look at the bigger picture, and you got to focus your time and energy into things that actually matter, things that bring joy to you. Bring joy to you, bring joy to your family. And yeah, kind of don't know what else to say in this podcast, I'm not going to lie. That's a bit about me at the moment. It's a bit about my struggles of what I'm going through right now, my mindset where I am right now. I don't know who I am. Don't know what I am. I have dreams, I have goals. But I definitely feel something empty inside, and I just don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to find that. And I hope if you're going through something similar like me, I hope it's put sort of not alarm bells in your radar, but like, I hope it's something you think about and reflect about on yourself. You know, what is the trajectory of your life? Where are you going? Who are you going there with? You know, health, there's so many aspects of health. They all come together to make a complete, perfect, happy, healthy person. And they all overconnect and interlap with each other. And your mental health is definitely one of the main pillars that you want to focus on. This has been Simon from Yellow Cat Performance. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. We will be back in a fortnight. So I'll catch you there. And if you need to reach out, talk to anyone, I'm here for you. Reach out, let's have a chat. Just break down the stigma of mental health and men's mental health. We're all going through the same shit together. Let's not make it harder on ourselves. Let's make it easier. Peace out. Love you so.